DAB digital radio, on the Times Radio app and on your smart speaker. Times Radio, the election station.
Good afternoon, I'm Andrew Neil. This is Times Radio, the election station. On today's show, as Labour unveils its plans to shore up the country's armed forces, I'll speak to ex-Defence Secretary Ben Wallace on the Tory defence record, on Labour's plans and what national service may or may not mean for this country. And George Galloway, leader of the Workers' Party of Britain. He'll join us to outline what a party outside of the mainstream might have to offer the electorate. All that and much more to come. But first, the headlines with Rachel Jewell.
Thanks, Andrew. Good afternoon. Sir Keir Starmer has reaffirmed his absolute commitment to the UK's nuclear deterrent.
Across the UK, on DAB, online and on your smart speaker. Andrew Neil on Times Radio.
Week 2 of the election campaign of 2024, a campaign which so far has seen Labour and Tory treat the surprisingly small differences between them as if they were ideological chasms, which they're not. It makes for limited debate. Despite the argy-bargy, Labour will stick broadly to Tory fiscal rules on tax and spend. Both promise not to raise income tax, national insurance or VAT. This morning, Labour committed to 4 new subs for our nuclear deterrent. That's already government policy. Yesterday, Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper told Times Radio that Labour wouldn't cut net migration, but refused to say by how much. That's pretty much what we've had from the Tories these past 14 years. Net migration, of course, has risen. The Tories are finding out the hard way that no matter what they say, and they've said some interesting things about national service and gender self-ID, the national mood is not to give them the time of day. That's a bed of barbed wire they've made for themselves. Labour's so far ahead in the polls and generally regarded as certain of victory that it's decided the less it says, the better. That's probably a sensible election strategy, but it doesn't make for an enervating campaign, except, of course, for the Lib Dems' Sir Edward Davey falling in the water. Voters are not over-enamoured about the current crop of politicians. I've had some harsh things to say myself in the run-up to the launch of this programme. Perhaps a bit too harsh. But these are difficult and dangerous times, and we need our politicians to be on the top of their game. The economy has been mired in stagnation. We need more ideas, more vision on how strong growth can be restored. Abroad, President Putin is preparing a summer offensive in Ukraine, which could change the balance of power in Europe, and not in a good way. On the other side of the world, President Xi's drums of war grow ever louder around Taiwan. Neither threat is addressed by arguing over whether defence spending should be increased by 0.1 or 0.2% by 2030, nor by Ed Davey falling in the water.